Dramatic video that we have been looking at all morning of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore collapsing into the water below. Can't believe it, just breathtaking. A cargo ship hit one of the columns around 1:30 this morning. The bridge then broke apart, as you can see, in several places, plunged into the water, taking several vehicles with it. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for choosing us this morning. Emergency responders just released more information about the rescue operation. The fire chief says 2 people have been rescued so far. 1 is okay. The other is in serious condition.
First responders are still looking for as many as 7 people, perhaps more. They've stuck to that number throughout much of the morning, though they say it could change, as this is a very large incident. They're calling it a mass casualty incident. A live look at the river in Baltimore. Emergency responders are in the water. They have been since very early this morning. The water temperature right now is at 48 degrees. How long the people who are in the water could survive is a big question at this hour. 1 to 4 hours is a very long time. There is an undercurrent that is getting in the way of the rescue as you again look at that horrific collapse. When the time is right, they'll look at the structural issues, but right now the focus is on search and rescue. At one point, it may turn into a recovery effort. Another look at the video collapse. You can see the side where the ship hit begins to fall first. The rest follows with the section to the right of the Francis Scott Key Bridge, the second column lifting up before falling into the water. Maryland's governor has now declared a state of emergency, and he says he is working to deploy federal resources.
How long is it going to take to rebuild this, Mayor?
I think right now, sir, listen, we shouldn't even be having that discussion right now. The discussion right now should be about the people, the souls, the lives that we're trying to save. There will be a time to discuss about a bridge and how we get a bridge back up. But right now, there are people in the water that we have to get out, and that's the only thing we should be talking about.
Now, this is a closer look at the ship that hit the bridge. You can see it there. Investigators say that they will need to do a damage assessment, obviously, now. There's also a concern about containers or debris from the bridge. We're talking specifically about the ship. You know, of course, the bridge falling poses a threat to divers. Bruce was just mentioning the current a few minutes ago. There's also the temperature in the water, which is in the 40s. When asked, you know, and we heard from the mayor specifically, whose focus is solely on making certain that that everyone is keyed in on rescuing anyone who is in the water still. You know, we heard from first responders saying that they have sonar that has detected vehicles in the water, but at this point, we simply do not know how many cars are in the water.
Yeah, you saw the ship right there. It's based out of Singapore. It's called the Dyer. There is some debris that is getting in the way of rescue efforts. Temperature, as I mentioned, is in the 40s right now. The company, which has the full name of A.P. Moller Maersk, says no company or crew on board the vessel was involved or in the water at this time. They are involved in the investigation. The ship is flying a Singapore flag. There was an American pilot from a tugboat who was on board. The pilot has been accounted for as well. Again, no injuries on the ship, according to the owner. Now, the bridge is a major lifeline for the city of Baltimore.
Right, so it carries interstate traffic, and now all of that traffic obviously has to be diverted. Melanie is joining us now. And Mel, even with planning, simply closing the bridge, even for something as mundane as repairs, would be a traffic crisis. And then you look at this, there is no bridge left.
No, there's nothing. And so as that, you just think about the process of rebuilding, and that's going to take years. I mean, if you live in this area, I lived in this area for some time. Amanda has family there as well. They're used to driving over this bridge every day. It is extremely busy. It's known simply as the Key Bridge. It carries 11.3 million vehicles every single year, nearly 31,000 cars per day. And again, now that lifeline is cut for who knows how long. We do have some new animation, and it shows the bridge when it was still standing from this overhead shot. It spans 1.6 miles. Imagine that. It crosses the Baltimore Harbor. First opened in 1977. is a final link of the I-695, which is another major interstate there in the Baltimore area. That bridge cost $110 million, allowing for more traffic lanes and carry lower operating and maintenance cost than a tunnel, which they do have a ton of those in the area as well. So as we mentioned, the bridge is named after the author of the Star Spangled Banner, Francis Scott Key. It is believed that he sat near the side of the bridge when he watched the bombardment of Fort McHenry back in 1814, which then inspired him to write the anthem. So a little history there. Now, the Port of Baltimore, the 9th busiest port in the U.S. for international cargo, handling 52 million tons, worth more than $80 billion just last year. So again, the bridge is down. The main traffic is being blocked over the port. Now, that could also mean that ships will need to be diverted, of course, to other ports, as I'm sure they're having to do that logistically right now. We also saw something similar when the Golden Ray was stranded near Brunswick here locally. So we will be diving into all of this throughout the morning. Again, though, right now, Bruce and Jen, the focus is on getting those people rescued out the water.